In this video, I'd like to show you Candace Eisner Strick's method for working mirrored increases, paired increases, in the toe of a toe-up sock. This video is the second in a series for North Georgia Knitting Guild's 2022 sock knit-along. I have on my needles my cast-on. This was Judy's Magic Cast-On. And at this point, most instructions will have you work paired increases here and here. Ideally, they should be mirrored. There are different ways to increase. Make one is very popular, and it turns out there's more than one way to work a make one. So you can make one by working into the running thread between stitches on the previous round or row. You can work make one by simply casting on a backward loop, just adding a stitch. Candace's approach is to make one by throwing a yarn over. So she comes forward, up in front, and down behind to make a yarn over. And you see that gives you a stitch that faces west. It has the left leg in back and the right leg in front. My refinement of Candace's method involves using the yarn under as well, and a yarn under comes up and back, forward towards the knitter, and down in front. And you'll see that stitch faces to the east. The left leg is in front and the right leg is in back. So we will use both of those. Here's what this looks like. I work almost to the end of the round, and I will work a yarn under. So up and back, forward and down in front. And then I'll work the last stitch of the round. Now I rotate because I am working in the round. The orange marker is my beginning of round marker. And I knit the first stitch, and I pair that yarn under with a yarn over. And now I'll work to the other end of the needle. And repeat. So I get down here, and it's yarn under. You could also call this a reverse yarn over. You could also call this a yarn over that faces east. It has more than one name. Rotate, because I'm working in the round. And then a yarn over. So now I have made 4 increases, 1 pair at each end of the needles. And at this point you may be thinking, but wait a minute, if you're increasing using yarn overs, aren't you leaving holes in your socks? After all, yarn overs are how you do lace. Well, you would be right, except on this next round we're going to work the stitches so that they are twisted shut. And to do that, we need to know 2 different needle positions. So needle position 1 is knitwise. It's that's the needle position you use all the time. And then needle position 3 is through the back of the loop. And that's what you do when you're working a slip, slip, knit together for a left leaning decrease. So those 2 needle positions, 1 and 3, will give you a knit stitch. So you have a 50-50 chance of guessing right on the first try. And if you guess wrong, no worries, because if you guessed wrong, then the other answer must be the right one. So it's not all that hard. So here I get to my yarn under. If I work it through needle position 3, through the back of the loop, that makes a hole. So I will instead use needle position 1, and that twists it shut. Similarly, when I get over here with my yarn over, if I work this through needle position 1, that would make a hole, so I'll use needle position 3 through the back of the loop. And that will twist that shut. And now I just work to the other end of the needles and repeat. So for the yarn under, I want needle position 1, knitwise. And for the yarn over, I'll want needle position 3 through the back of the loop. And then just knit down the needle. Now here's the genius of Candace's method. You can't get lost. And here's what I mean. There's action on both rounds. So if you get to a place where you're making increases and nothing is there, then you know you need to make a yarn under or a yarn over. Whereas if you're working around and there are holes everywhere, then you know you need to work those shut. So action on both rounds, you can put the needles down even in the middle of a round and come back and you always know where you are. The only thing I really have to write myself a note about is, am I working yarn unders followed by yarn overs, or am I working yarn overs followed by yarn unders? That's the only thing I have to write down. So let me show you what this looks like. You probably have questions about, there's two things I did. One is, why did I start my first increase at the end of the round rather than the beginning of the round? And here's a sample showing why. So in this sample, my first increase was here, 2 increases here, and the last increase there. And this end of the sock is pretty good. That lines up nicely. That looks pretty good. This end, however, can you see how the increases are sort of off by a row? Because this was the beginning of the round and this was the end of the round. I'm not super happy with that. This sample is what I just demonstrated. So there's the middle of the round and those line up. And then here's the beginning of the round, and those also line up. And you can see the yarn unders are leaning out to the right, and the yarn overs are leaning out to the left. So that's what this looks like. Now it turns out you can work, instead of yarn under and then yarn over, you could work yarn over and then yarn under. And of course I have a sample of that as well, where this leans in. This is leaning to the left, this is leaning to the right. And here it is at the beginning of the round. I think it's a little more decorative, but that's what that would look like. So both are valid solutions. It's not a right or wrong. It's a do the one that you like best. So the way the sock toe works then, you simply keep increasing, working those 2 rounds until you have almost the right number of stitches to fit around the intended foot. On a sock you want negative ease. You want the sock to be just a little bit smaller than the intended foot. So increase almost, but not quite enough to fit around the foot. And then at that point you just work in the round without shaping. And that frees you up for creative play. You can introduce stitch patterns, or if you're in a pretty self-striping yarn, just enjoy watching the stripes develop as you knit on up the foot. So there you are. That is how to use Candace Eisner Strick's method for working paired increases in a sock toe with a little refinement from me. Happy knitting!